After wandering in the desert, on their way to the promised land, the Jews arrive at the edge of the land of the Moabites. And the king of Moab, Balak, who is scared of the Israelites' potential power and influence, he declares that the Israelites must be cursed. So he summons a well-known sorcerer, Balaam, offers to pay him handsomely to go and to curse the Israelites. But Balaam refuses to curse them. Instead, he blesses them. And he says, "How can I curse those whom God has not cursed? How do I denounce them when God has not denounced them? As I see them from the mountaintops, gaze on them from the heights, there is a people that dwells alone." A people that dwells alone. A people not considered among the other nations. In Hebrew, Am Levadad Yishkon, Israel, blessed as a nation that dwells alone. So the Torah seems to suggest that standing alone and being different is a blessing. It sure has not felt like a blessing since October 7th. If anything, we have felt the profound sadness of being alone, of being misunderstood, ignored as a people. We have lost allies and colleagues and friends and coworkers and college classmates. We have been abandoned by the institutions that educated us or are educating our children or our grandchildren. Being a Jew in America this year has been frustrating, scary, troubling, and complicated. It has not felt at all like a blessing to be a nation that dwells alone. It has felt just like that curse that the king of Moab wanted to fall on us thousands of years ago. When I was in Israel this summer, studying at the Shalom Hartman Institute, I noticed that Israelis feel this sense of isolation differently than those of us here in America. While we've had to face blatant anti-Semitism, masked anti-Zionists in our streets, college campus protests and encampments, Jew hatred on social media, loss of allies, and more, Israel faces the profound challenge of feeling like an isolated nation, surrounded by enemies that are chomping at the bit to perform another Simchat Torah massacre. There are still hostages in Gaza. There are still daily rocket barrages from Hezbollah in the north, attacks from Iran, those missiles and drones being launched by the Houthis in Yemen. Close to 60,000 Israelis who are from the north are still not back in their homes. People are still mourning the loss of October 7th and many who have died since that tragic day. And for many Israelis, the world just doesn't seem to understand their pain, their fear, their anger, their sadness. The world just wants to condemn them. And Israelis are scared about their future. If we are to believe in the wisdom and insights of the Torah, then we must choose to see our isolation as a blessing rather than a curse. But how do we do that? How do we transform this seeming curse into a blessing? It begins with surge pricing. Yes, we've all heard of it and we've experienced it. It's that strategy used by companies to automatically raise prices when demand for a product is high and the supply is low. As consumers, we come across it all the time. Those rideshare and delivery apps when you book an airline ticket, when you try and get a ticket to a concert, online shopping, all of it. Well, this past year, we experienced surge Judaism. In the aftermath of October 7th and all that came with it, we have seen an increase in what is called Jewish engagement. And recently, the Jewish Federations of North America conducted a survey to quantify the changes around Jewish identity and engagement at this pivotal time. So of the 83% of Jews who were only somewhat, not very, or not at all engaged prior to October 7th, a whopping 40% are now showing up in more significant numbers in Jewish life. And among the Jews who are not members of synagogues, which according to Pew estimates is 64% of all American Jews, 37% said they're now opening to joining a synagogue. This past year, right here at Wilshire Boulevard Temple, we had 50 people sign up for our Choosing Judaism conversion program after October 7th. 50. But, like surge pricing, the default is the return to the average, a return to the regular day-to-day routine. And my concern, my fear, is that we say we are forever changed by October 7th, but our tendency has always been to return to what's been comfortable and easy and normal. We can no longer afford to do that. This great Jewish awakening is going to require a plan for the day after, and we need to be thinking about that right now because we know that change is slow. We all have to undergo some serious changes to our connection to our Judaism and the Jewish community. So I interpret those statistics about increased Jewish engagement as a sign of an increase in Jewish pride, an increase in an awareness that being a Jew is special. And it's wonderful and essential to identify with a piece of ourselves that has separated us and made us special for thousands of years. And it's clear that after October 7th, people are looking for ways to understand what that connection can mean for them. There's one college student who is quoted as saying, "There's got to be more to Judaism than bagels and lox if they hate us this much." We need to have more Jews who have pride in their heritage and their history and their identity. But pride is just the baseline. We need a lot more than just Jewish pride moving forward. I grew up in Oakland during the era of the Bash Brothers, Mark McGuire, Jose Canseco, Ricky Henderson, Dennis Eckersley. I had such pride in those Oakland A's. I have to say I'm very sad that they are leaving Oakland and going to Las Vegas. And then there's my wife Julia and her family who are here tonight, huge Laker fans, have had season tickets for almost 50 years. Maybe you love the Dodgers. By the way, if you are here, you are a good Jew. If you are not at the game, you're a good Jew. There's Angel City, there's the Rams, there's the Chargers, there's LAFC, there's USC, there's UCLA. This city has plenty of options for Jewish pride. Well, and just pride of games and sports teams. We buy their gear, we wear their hats around town, we cheer for them when they're doing well, we commiserate with other fans when they're not doing so well. We take our kids and our grandkids to games, create those lifetime memories. A big piece of my experience was going to those A's games with my family. That's one of the reasons I had such pride in the team. And we think about those times in college where we used to tailgate before a football game, or when we learned our alma mater's fight song for the first time. Pride bonds us with a whole group of people who share a connection and a history. But being a fan and having pride in that team doesn't mean you actually know who the players are on the team, or follow their season in detail, or know their strengths and weaknesses, or what it'll take for them to raise their profile for the season, or who even owns the team. That kind of connection requires a level of knowledge and confidence that sets someone apart from most of us who just have pride in a team. So all of you diehard Dodgers fans, again, except the diehard good Jewish ones who are here, the Lakers, the Rams, all of the teams that we have, you diehard fans know what I'm talking about, because the rest of us just envy that level of knowledge, because whenever you're in a conversation with someone who is a super fan and they start spouting statistics and strategies, you nod your head in agreement, you pretend you know what they're talking about, maybe you throw out some fact or opinion that you heard on some highlight reel and you feel totally inferior inside and feel a little guilt about being a fair weather fan, and you just push through the conversation. Maybe that's just me. Pride is nice. We should all have it. But the real name of the game is having Jewish self-confidence. Understanding our history, our game plan, our tradition, our rituals, some basic understandings of our texts, our value system, and being able to articulate all of those things when we look in the mirror, when we talk to our family, and most importantly, when we are feeling most alone. And in those moments when we are confronted by those who attempt to use our religion or our association with Israel or our history or our mere existence against us. In high school, I was the captain of the baseball team, and it was a large public high school in the Bay Area, thousands of students, and there were very few of us Jews at the school. And there was a younger pitcher who joined the team. He also happened to be Jewish. And there was another kid on the team, great athlete, key player on the team. And one day, he called this pitcher a kike. Now, there's always some banter and smack talk when you're on a team, but for me, that went too far. So I went into the coach's office, and I said, you have two choices. You either kick him off the team, or I walk. In the end, I remained on the team. And I share this story because I don't believe it's a story about Jewish pride. I believe it's a story about Jewish self-confidence. See, Jewish self-confidence is when we take our Jewish pride and we make it actionable. When it changes our conversations, our reactions, our weekly or our daily routines, when it leads us to take risks and pushes us beyond our usual comfort zone. I learned recently that there are at least 5 people who are members of Wilshire Boulevard Temple who are now rapping tefillin on a daily basis. Okay? They are doing this on their own, in their homes, not because Chabad has come to their office or stopped them on the street. It's a ritual practice that has generally been relegated to more traditional Jews, and it's made its way into our community and is being reclaimed by members who, before this year, didn't know a single thing about tefillin. That is not Jewish pride. That is Jewish self-confidence. That is claiming a Jewish ritual as your own and not getting caught up in the baggage of whether you know the blessing properly or succumbing to the insecurity of how you might be perceived by others. This past year was the year of showing up, of expressing our Jewish pride, of taking the steps to engage with aspects of our Jewish identity that may have laid dormant for some time or maybe never had been exposed before now. However, for us to navigate what is sure to be a continued path of challenges and complexities ahead, we are going to have to go beyond Jewish pride and enter into the more sophisticated realm of Jewish self-confidence. And that's going to require each and every one of us to take what we have done this past year and amplify our efforts at least 1 or 2 degrees more. And I'm not just talking about giving more money or reposting twice as much or reading more articles. I'm talking about entering a deeper state of Jewish identity formation, of developing a Jewish muscle that is more toned and flexible than it has ever been. Because we are at an existential crossroads right now, unlike any other time since the Holocaust. Bret Stephens pointed out in a recent op-ed when discussing Jew hatred, he said, quote, "Nothing we can do, whether through acts of religious renunciation or cultural erasure or conspicuous achievements or abundant generosity, would ever entirely ease that hatred. If anything, it might aggravate it. We are a nation that dwells alone. We have to be armed with the information and the knowledge and the self-confidence to be able to respond when confronted. We cannot support Israel and be a strong Jewish community here in the United States if we don't know who we are. We need to be able to answer the haters with absolute certainty and with a confidence that allows us to remain calm and rational and strong. Israel has needed the Iron Dome this year. We need to build up our own version of the Iron Dome. We need to protect and defend ourselves against the attacks and the ignorance and the vitriol that is going to continue to bombard us for years to come. It is not going to simply disappear. It's never going to entirely disappear. We've had a year to mourn that realization. Now it's time to arm ourselves with the skills, the information, the history, the rituals, and the spirit with even more force and passion. Our Iron Dome will require more than Jewish pride. It's going to require a Jewish self-confidence that only comes when we push ourselves beyond our comfort zones. When the Iron Dome locks in on an incoming missile, it's not wondering what that missile thinks or hopes that the missile will just change course and go away, or try and figure out how to distract the missile, or to try and convince the missile of anything. It is clear in what it must do to stop the missile. It responds directly, with determination, and without hesitation. We have to be that Iron Dome for the Jewish people. An Iron Dome to protect our Israeli brothers and sisters, and an Iron Dome to protect each other here in the United States. We have to become that Sukkot Shalom, that shelter and dome of peace and strength, a dome of knowledge and precision, a dome of confidence. So here's what you can do. You can think about one area of your Jewish life to which you brought more Jewish pride this past year. Maybe you listened to a Jewish or Israel-themed podcast. Maybe you started checking out new news sources. Maybe you started following some Jewish and Israeli influencers on social media and you reposted some of their content. Maybe you showed up to a few more Shabbat services or hosted an event to raise money for Israel, or you went to the Nova exhibit, or you gave money to a Jewish cause, or you got more involved in a local school, or you celebrated a Jewish holiday in a more meaningful way. Maybe you just simply started to notice or identify as a Jew more openly. Now take what you did this past year and supersize it. And then imagine what it would be like if you did that and then some. And I'll tell you, we at the synagogue are going to help you on that path. The discomfort of adding new elements to our Jewish playbook will actually lead to an increase in Jewish joy. Because the deeper you dive into our tradition, the more meaning and purpose and love and hope that you're going to find. It's everywhere in our texts, in our culture, in our history. And that's the ultimate goal, to sit in the joy and the love and the hope that have guided our people for thousands of years. Am levadad yishkon, a nation that dwells alone. But it's not a curse. It's a blessing. It's a blessing that has allowed us to survive through the worst atrocities inflicted on a single group in the course of human history. With strength, with pride, and with Jewish self-confidence, we are not only going to be a blessing to one another, but we're going to be what the Torah calls us to be, which is an or legoyim, a light unto the nations. Become an iron dome. The Jewish people need you. Am levadad yishkon, a nation that stands alone, but we are not alone. We are one. Gemar Chatima Tova.